Okay, so it's the next day. What is it? Well, it's the same day because I uploaded the last video at 4:30 this morning. So November 15th of 2025. This is just an update with this kerfuffle around something I can't control when it comes to plumbing problems. All right. So I guess when the city came, because I just spoke to my son, that man, I guess when the city came last night, which was around 8 o'clock, right? They must have did something. They would have had to done something. I don't know what they did, how they did it, because I just got off the phone with my son, and he said that purging of the water and the leaking of the water has basically subsided. It's basically stopped. So the only way that would have happened would have been by the city. Okay? So it took a day and a half to make that happen. I'm just saying. Because of, I would think, people procrastinating on the seriousness of the problem at hand when my son first phoned and said we had an emergency. Right? Now, I spoke to Tisha, right? Just, in case I have to, because she phoned me back because Andre left a message, blah, blah, blah. Like not asking maybe, take us for a couple of days because of blah, blah, blah. So she phoned me and she basically just started hollering right from the beginning. Oh my God. Here's another one. So if I'm not getting it from Mrs. Gill, I'm getting it from the freaking plumbers making threats on me. Right? And yada yada. And now I've got Tisha on the phone. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. You need to move. Blah, 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 blah. Marky, when he left yesterday, probably went to go look for another place to live. I said, yeah, maybe he did. Maybe that's what that's why maybe they left. They were looking at another place to live. It's not that simple for me, people. Right? Oh, yes, it is. I've been telling you a long time to get out of the house. Blah, 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 blah. I hate Canada. I don't want nothing to do with you. Because, I'm like, I can't move. It's not that simple. Like, I just hired a guy to start helping me to sort stuff out, right? Rhea was supposed to help me in April. If she would have just been a decent human being versus stealing $10,000, $8,000 worth of my stuff, the way she did it with her smash and grab antics, it would have been all organized and online and would have already started selling things. But of course that didn't happen. So now I've got another person, and I am paying, as a man, he's a man, and I am paying him, right? And he hasn't done a lot, but what little bit he's done, I appreciate it. It's helped, right? Because I'm lifting and moving and straining and bending, and my hip is kind of starting to go off on me again. And so, the little bit that he's doing in terms of, here, take this, put it there, blah, blah, blah. I actually got into the closet in the playroom. I pulled everything out, right? My costumes that were downstairs, some of them were stolen. I was so hoping those costumes were upstairs in the closet up here, and they weren't. So somebody downstairs at some point in the past stole several outfits, beautiful, beautiful outfits behind my back. They're gone. All right. Nothing I can do about it now. So that matter's been cleared up. But I pulled out my jackets. I showed him a jacket that was 45 years old. Yeah, 45 years old. I'll show it to you soon. Right? I said, I had this when I was 18 years old. I remember. And it's a leather black and white jacket, basically, that says Canada on the back with the Canadian leaf, right? And it's a little bomber jacket, right? It's it's been so long. The leather that has a pile to it? It's a soft leather that has a pile, plus just a regular leather that's smooth. Anyway, I said, this jacket's 45 years old. He goes, oh my God, it's in such good shape. I said, yeah, I know. Yeah. I showed him a drum that I bought, right, when I used to go out in the community and do things. I said, one day I'll go over, I'll bring some musical instruments, and we'll play drums and stuff, right? I already dropped off next door at James' place a guitar. A guitar that unfortunately has a broken neck, but it was still tuned. So, you know, you could play it. Technically, you could play it because it was tuned after all these years of not being touched. But, you know, I kept the case because I have other guitars in the house. And I just dropped off the guitar over there, and I told him, you know, maybe somebody, you know, knows how to fix the neck because it's cracked, right? So, either or, okay. So, with Tisha, you know, she wants me to move, like, no. And I can't. It's not that simple. I'm trying to get my finances in order. That's going to take a little while. I'm not sure what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it yet. Obviously, organize into categories, decide what I'm going to do or not do when it comes to liquidating some things. Right? I only have so much energy in a day. You know, I've got other responsibilities. And now with no water in the house, you know, at the backlog with the, you know, urinated blankets and, you know, because the Murray leaks, right? You know, it's piling up. So I don't know. Or whatever, dishes, bottles, right? So, you know, the priority today, after this, Andre's going to go get me one of the buckets that I have downstairs that I was going to use for food prep. It's about a 6-gallon bucket. I'm going to go over next door to James and see if they can fill it up with some water for me and carry it over and bring it into the house. And then, so I can start boiling water to do dishes, basically, right? And yeah, so that's what my priority is right now, is just get the kitchen. I can't. I need clean baby bottles. I need clean nipples. You know, I need. Right. Okay. As for the laundry, well, I'm going to ask James if he has a wash machine, because if he has a wash machine over there, just wash it for me, and then I'll, you know, hang them up in the house like I do anyway, right? If he doesn't have a wash machine, well, I'm hooped. Because, you know, like, it's not like I can ask Marcane and Marina to take it to a fucking laundromat, and, sorry, boo-boo laundromat, and wash me a load of laundry, because we're busy. Fair enough. Okay, so that ain't going to happen there. I can't wash them here because there's no water at this point. And I can't ask Tisha, because as far as Tisha's concerned right now, because I can't move out tomorrow, or I'm reluctant to move out faster than, you know, sooner than later, because I can't, because I'm locked in, like I'm trapped like a spider in a web, right? You know, it's not that easy to unwind yourself from those kind of situations. And I don't want nothing to do with you guys, you know, I'm done, I don't want to be in Canada, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if that's the case, then don't call. If that's how you freaking feel about it, then don't call me. Right? Right? You know, like, seriously, she can't cope with life, with its ups and downs. She wants the smooth, easy life, living by a beach, sipping her wine on a little island in the Caribbean. Basically. Although she did say Alex is there because his grandfather died, right? So he went home to St. Vincent, and I guess there was something, I don't know, he didn't re-put an application for something, so he's kind of stuck out there, and he hasn't been able to come back to Canada until the paperwork gets processed through the various embassies, but it has to go to Trinidad first. Okay, right? So, whatever. But she said that whatever those guys were doing, this was before she told me that she didn't want anything to do with us because she can't cope with the fucking bullshit, right? And she's blaming me for allowing it to happen, because I apparently refuse to move. When she knows I can't afford it and there's nowhere to go, with very little help to get there. Okay? So that's, right? But prior to that, she was telling me that whatever those guys were doing, in the numbers that they were doing it, in terms of 5, 6, 7 guys, in and out, over a long period of time, was bull crap. Was total bull crap. Okay? She said if Alex was dealing with that crap, it would have been done a whole lot faster. And whether he was doing a solo, working on his own, doing it for himself, because he's a smart man. I've watched him work, people, really. That's why I admire Plumbers, because I really seen it with Alex, the way he just, right, a man works at a job that he likes and is comfortable with and knows the business. And I was trying to take that and import it with those guys downstairs yesterday, but, it turned into one big pissing contest where I'm literally shaking in my boots now, wondering where the next attack is going to come. And it's going to come from a Punjabi man, basically, with his secret supporters when it comes to the group. Because, they like the Borg, right? Right? And before one will splinter off and do the right thing, they'll just stay with the group so that they don't become outcasts within the group. Right? Right? Politics, you know how it goes. It's society, like social politics. Right? Religious politics. Right? Okay. So I just told her, well, if that's how you feel, then don't call. So I can't rely on her for nothing. I mean, she'll probably calm down because she's reactive, right? The pressure comes, and versus breathing, cracking a joke through it, trying to deal with it, however, whatever, hunker down, pull yourself, whatever. Like, I gotta go across the street, go get a 5-gallon, 6-gallon bucket, fill it up with water, plead with somebody to help carry it over here. If I have to, I'll carry pot by pot, fill it up, and whatever. The point is, she'd be freaking out by now if she was in this situation. And before she try and calm herself down and just deal with it, she's like a pinball in a pinball machine, bouncing. So she's bouncing off of me right now. It's all my fault. Yeah, okay, it's my fault. It's my fault for staying here. Okay. Right. So just, if that's how you feel, you don't want anything to do with us. That's me, Amari, and Andre, basically. Right? And you just want to leave Canada and get away from Canadian riffraff, including your mother with your nephews, then so be it. Just don't call me. So I can't rely on her. And in a week from now, perhaps we'll be talking, and it will be like water off a duck's back. She'll act like it didn't happen. She didn't say those things. And then until the next flare-up, until the next crises. Okay. Whatever. But in the meantime, if that's how you feel, don't stress yourself out, and don't hell stress me. Just don't call me then. And I got appointments coming up all for the next couple of weeks. I've got 3 appointments for me. I've got the eye doctor, who is a specialist that may want to do surgery ASAP, but I can't because I've got nobody to depend on. I don't. I really don't. I really don't. So I'm just going to tell him I don't think so. I can't at this point because I get screamed at. No, your surgery, it's all your fault that you can't see, and now you have to go for surgery, and blah, 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 blah. Fuck off. Leave me alone. And then some banking I got to do. And then family doctor for my long-term disability. And then I booked in an appointment for Amari for ankle bracelets. Right? And this is all in the space of the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. Right? Between 2 to 4 weeks. Well, she's not going to help me with that. And if she does, oh God, maybe she'd be screaming at me in the car because I'm not packing up and moving out fast enough to get away from the problem. Yeah, okay. I just told Andre, well, we'll take a taxi. We'll take the stroller and we'll take a taxi, whatever. We'll deal with it one day at a time. Right? That's what adults do. So, right? And then my son, I phoned him, asked him what was going on. He said everything stopped basically after the city came in terms of the purging of the water, the purging of the sewage water, whatever. So they did something somewhere. Is that affecting my neighbors and their toilets and their sinks and their what? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. And of course, I'm in the dark now because I'm the villain, right? Because I want to record to keep with the story, right? In terms of this is what goes on with, I guess you can say, property development. Because it's all property development related, people, because if they weren't ripping up the ground over there, ripping up the ground over there, ripping up the ground over there, and then coming in and ripping up the freaking roads with these big ass trucks up and down, up and down, up and down, every day, 5 days a week for 3 years in a row, well, what do you think's going to happen to your neighborhood? You're going to experience problems like I got. And my neighbor over there with the sinkhole, with this 100-year septic tank coming up through the ground as it's killing off all the trees, including walnut trees that bear fruit. I still have to go to my neighbors and record that crap because of what's been going on. Right. Right? So, I don't know what the point of that was, other than to say, like, I'm the villain. I'm the villain. I got my landlord mad at me. Well, we already know my son's wife is always mad at me. Even though I think about her situation, and I'm the first person to say, okay, if this is the case, then we need to start thinking about changing some of the carpet after it's all settled and done. Right? Not for me, but for them, including her. But I'm still the villain. Okay. Instead, they want to move, which is fine. Because my neighbor, with the weather changing, gets 20 people knocking on his door. And we're talking just a little rancher, a one-bedroom rancher. We've got 20 people knocking on his door, seeing if they can sleep there for the night because it's cold outside and there's nowhere else for them to go. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is there's already 2 people that have requested to rent the basement from me when my son and his wife move out, if that's what they want to do, because of the housing crises, with this building boom, with everybody that's doing it getting rich, while people like us are suffering. And that's the part that the Punjabis don't like to talk about because they're too busy in the church. Well, temple. They're too busy in the temple putting on a persona, right? A false face as to how superior they are above those, well, yeah, below them. They're above those below them under their caste system. So when I think of their caste system and I think of that young man that captured my mind and my heart, who was downstairs in that bathroom for 10 hours, people. He was one of the first ones to show up and one of the last ones to show up. And he was the only one mopping up that sewage sludge for 10 hours straight. And then I took his situation and I put him in, I imported him, like teleported him. I teleported him, traveled through time, like a teleport time thing, time travel, in India, in some little freaking community where he was stuck in that caste system, cleaning up sewage by hand for the so-called wealthy that never wanted him to rise above what oppressed them because they needed him to be that slave so that they could feel good about themselves. Let's talk about that, because if there was anyone like that in the crowd last night, it was that young man that was mopping up that sewage for 10 hours straight. He's the one who captured my heart and my mind. He's the one that made me look and really analyze the situation and see how hard he was working. Well, everybody else was just faking the funk. Stalling for time. So they could run game on my landlord and charge her more money for being inconvenienced to come to this house and do a job. Yeah. But that man didn't complain. That man said, well, nothing's impossible in terms of, don't worry, Judy, you'll be fine. We'll get it fixed. Nothing is impossible. Because I was worried. And as soon as he said it was nothing impossible to fix, like sooner than later, in terms of it shouldn't drag out for a long period of time, right? But, right? Where everybody else was just dickering around, and then in came the pit bull, another pit bull, yeah, and just started making threats on me, to which I did happen to record, not because I was waiting for it to happen. It's just the guy was a fucking idiot, and he obviously gets off on it, right? Because if he didn't, he wouldn't do it. But you see, he's not the only one in the Punjabi community that thinks and acts like him, and that's the problem. And he's a coward because he won't freaking address it. Before he'd address it, he'd get more people to attack me one way or another, get Mrs. Gill to attack me, right? Get Mr. Gill to attack me, versus dealing with the freaking problem within their own community when it comes to using and abusing those below them under that caste system, where they feel that they're superior than everybody else and they can do whatever the fuck they want. So, in other words, whatever the hell they spent on those plumbers you can't call them plumbers. Tisha said they're not plumbers. If Mrs. Gill would have hired a proper plumber, whatever was going on wouldn't have happened. They dragged it out for a day and a half. And they polluted my backyard while they did it. So now I'm thinking I have to go buy some lime or something. I'm going to have to ask somebody about that. And sprinkle lime out there. Yeah. to prevent who knows what. Because Tisha's saying the house is contaminated now. I have to get out as fast as I can. She said, oh, well, Andre, Marcaine must have went out last night looking for another place to live. That's why he left. I said, well, maybe he did. It will be good for him. Do you honestly think I want him living down there with that girl under these conditions even before this shit happened? Right? Because, right? No, I don't. But I'm stuck. And, his joints are clicking all the time and shit, right? Whatever. I mean, it could be because of the semi-mildew that's already in the carpet downstairs with some hot spots. I used to go downstairs and spray the carpet with water and tea tree oil, or water with tea tree oil and peppermint oil, just to kill the mildew in the carpets. I bought a freaking dehumidifier. I pulled that out yesterday, right? Because, it's in the air, right? Whatever is going on down there right now. I told my son, why don't you use that dehumidifier to suck up the moisture in the air, being that you're concerned about mold growth, right? I bought it for that purpose. Well, I don't know where it is. I said, well, I seen where the box is. So I left it sitting right there, brand new in the box, hasn't been used yet. And when I showed that nice plumber, the one that was doing the dirty work for those above him, as they were, treating him like he came from some small village and was born into be impoverished for his whole life, serving them, and it would never be anything more than but to do what they assigned him to do, which he did for 10 hours. He's the one who earned the paycheck. Yeah. He's the one who captured my admiration. Yeah. He's the one that made me feel, I don't want to say safe, but he ensured me that it wasn't going to drag out for a long period of time, and it was manageable, doable, and that nothing was impossible. Not those other guys. Outside of when they got into their little hum moment, and I could hear them thinking in their language, even though I don't speak their language. And they were drawing off of each other's energy. And if that dude just would have left everything alone, let me do my little video, right? Anything else after the fact, I wouldn't even thought about it and questioned how they dealt with it. But now that he brought it to the surface, brought it to my attention, yeah, what you did was wrong. You should have came in as a professional, dealt with the problem ASAP, and being that it was during the week, right, you could have went out on the streets and dealt with the city before that shit even fucking got worse. And instead you didn't. You polluted my backyard with a bunch of sewage water that I have to now figure out how to kill off the germs, and I think it's lime. So my son might have to go to Home Depot and buy some lime so we can throw some lime out there. But I don't know what that does to animals. I have to figure it out because we got animals. We got wildlife, raccoons, those kind of things, and obviously the cats, right? And birds.
Okay, people, so I think it's the 15th of November. Stays here again over there. And now we got a big truck right there. A lot of people are looking at it right now, so don't know. But they're digging clean up. Trying to find where the pipe is, I'm assuming. I don't really know. Trying to hide the camera. At their faces. Okay, people, so Marquine just called me and told me to flush the toilet 3 times because we're getting the pipe fixed, you know. Did 2 times. Let me do it 1 more. Oh, that one did not go. Flashlight. Get out of here. Scram! Chew! It's almost. Okay, I flushed it 3 times. Is it good? Okay, I flushed it 3 times. Is it dead? Okay, damn it, bro. Okay. Oops. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I've flushed it 3 times. Is it good now? Question mark?
Okay, I'm gonna finish this video. I don't know, Andres did a couple little clips there. They are what they are, okay? About whatever's been going on outside. Before I say what I say, I'm just going to read this comment that came in from somebody that just opened up an account. So it's somebody that probably, I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate. You know how YouTube works, right? Okay. Talo Nature, that's what they're calling themselves. Okay. You just opened up an account yesterday on November 15th of 2025. And now it's November 16th of 2025 at 3 a.m. in the morning. And if you notice, my little bumpkin munchkin is awake. And so is Andre. I've been sleeping, needless to say. Whatever. At least I'm not sick. Alright. I'm worn out, all that other crap, stressed out. Clearly my eyes stress me out. Pressure in the head. You know, I'm dealing with a cagey situation with some cagey individuals. Because, you know, it's all about control or about loose harvesting. Got to draw on that negative energy, right? To make yourself strong for the ones that do that kind of crap. All right. Anyway, this individual, Talo Nature, said, you can record on your private property. Well, you can record really anywhere, honestly. Under the Criminal Code of Canada. I don't know where the Criminal Code of Canada is here in my house. Somewhere kicking around. Two of them. The last update was 2018, when I was fighting for Uncle John, but, you know, they change a little here and a little there. For the most part, it stays pretty consistent because, honestly, it's a obsolete book in a land of lawlessness. Right? When you live in a country where there are no... where it's lawless, when you live in a country, aka the New Congo, where it's lawless, when you have criminal codes, however they're written, they end up becoming basically obsolete. The higher you go up the food chain within the judicial system, the justice system, the bigger the crime, depending on who you're pointing the fingers at when it comes to that crime, the larger the cover-up and the corruption. Right? So that's what makes the criminal code become obsolete. Because the judges, the lawyers, and the politicians, and yada-yada-yada-yada, they act like it doesn't exist when you call them on heinous crimes in a court of law. And that's what my videos have proved when it comes to all the bad things that have happened to my family through criminal activity that likes to prop up that underground economy. But besides all that point, we still have a Criminal Code of Canada. And under the Criminal Code of Canada, you have a right to record if you're a part of the proceedings. Okay? You don't necessarily have to inform the person that you're recording them if it's like a conversation where, you know, what I'm... Oh, God. Andre, give him something before he starts working himself up. Fix him up. You can't spy on somebody legally. Only the police can do that. Okay? They're supposed to get warrants in order to set up spyware. Just, can you talk quiet, please? They're supposed to get warrants before they can spy on somebody and set up shop, you know. But through legislation, yada over the years, I think there's a method for them to bypass that. But normally, they're supposed to get warrants before they can set up shop to spy on people. All right. You as an individual, please give him something, okay? Well, maybe he's laying on something. Why now? Stop it, Amari. You as an individual can't go out and buy a whole bunch of spyware and then set it up and spy on your neighbor, however you're using that spyware. That's illegal. Okay? Whether it's you're a peeping Tom and you're looking for lewd shit, or whether you're looking for information so that you can hold it against your neighbor and blackmail him or whatever, right? You know, extortion, that kind of crap. No, you can't do that. But you could be sitting there, have this in your pocket or in your house, hidden away, instead of right up in somebody's face, and you can record. Or you could be out and about and have this in your pocket, come into contact with somebody, have a conversation, and record it at that moment without telling them that you're recording them. You can do that. That's not illegal because you're not going out of your way to spy, okay? To collect information purposely with ill intent, right? And so it doesn't matter if you're out in public or in your home, you have the right to record. That's why the social workers get annoyed with me, because, you know, are you recording? Because they know I do YouTube, yada yada yada. And I'll say yes. And they'll say, well, we disagree. We don't want to be recorded. But please don't put the camera on our face. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not using the camcord. I'm using one of these. And it's basically for my records, right? And what I do with those records is my business. Whether I decide to put them online, because I ain't committing no crimes, and technically they're not committing no crimes, right? You know, it was just a conversation, right? Or whether I just keep them as, I suppose, evidence, as backup, as a reminder as to what was going on, so I can take notes, you know, work on the timeline, right? However, it's your business what you do with your recording for the most part, as long as you're not trying to use that information to blackmail somebody or something along those lines, right? Now, when you go into public buildings, like a courthouse, those kind of places, not so, like even in a hospital you can record. People get nervous with it, but like if Amari's in the hospital and I want to record, I can, right? Hold on a minute. So I guess Amari was sleeping when I was sleeping, and I slept for a while, so. And I guess he woke up when I woke up. So that means he's going to be full of vinegar. And sometimes he likes to just whine. Get whiny, whiny, whiny. And it's like taking fingers on a chalkboard for me. Oh, can't stand it. So we got another bottle of Pediasure there. So if he really starts, Andre will give it to him. Because he ain't going back to sleep anytime soon. I can tell you that right now. Alright, so when it comes to recording in a government building, I guess you could say. Government, you know how they say, oh, you can't record as a government building, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. Technically, under the Criminal Code of Canada, you can. Because you are a party to the proceeding. As long as you are a party to the proceeding, you have the right to record in Canada. Technically, anywhere under the Criminal Code of Canada. But if you're using it for the purpose to spy on somebody, and that's the purpose, is to spy, to gather information so that you can cause harm and injury through blackmail, extortion, and whatever, well then that's illegal, right? So in a hospital setting, you can record, although sometimes you'll get people saying, no, you can't. This is a hospital, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you can, right? And I'm just going to use Shimei as an example. People wanted to take pictures of Shimei when she was on that hospital bed, when she was murdered. Okay? She was dead, but she was made to look alive through the embalming process and through the play acting around the nursing staff. Okay? But don't you find it interesting that that nursing staff told everybody in the room that they couldn't even take pictures of Shimei, being that she was on that bed for 9 days? Since when? Since when are you not allowed to take a picture of your loved one on a hospital bed, regardless of the state that they're in, good or bad? Unless, of course, the hospital staff was trying to hide something that maybe a picture could prove in terms of something's not right. The picture says right here, you can see it. And if you take it to exposure, you're going to even see more. Okay? So, for me, somebody gave me pictures of Shimei. They didn't listen to the nursing staff. They took the pictures anyway. And then I got the pictures 6 months later after Shimei was out of that hospital bed. And supposedly, her ashes are in an urn. Supposedly. Right? And then I took those pictures, I expanded them, I put them onto this computer with an editing program, and I took exposure, I took it to exposure to produce the different densities of the, of her face, basically, to show me what was there that I naked eye couldn't see. And that's when I found the sutures. They sutured up her lip because her jaw was dropping like this, because when you're dead this all drops, right? They sutured up her lips so her mouth wouldn't do that. They had an orifice plug way in the back of her throat, which I can prove through exposure. Her skin was rotting, decomposing in certain areas where the makeup couldn't cover it up, right? I can prove that through exposure. her eyes had caved in, and when they caved in, maybe they took them out, I don't know, but they ended up putting eye caps in, so it ended up being like that on her last days with eye caps. And what an eye cap is a little round thing like this to make it look like there's something there when in fact it's like this, right? Because as you decompose, everything sinks and turns to goo. The organs first, the soft tissues. Eyes are soft tissues. Honestly, I think they took her eyes, along with anything else that they could harvest. But I know that on the 16th, her eyes were like this, and on the 19th, they were like this, which tells you they had eye caps in them. Where the slam dunk comes in is with the orifice plug in the mouth and the sutures. That's why they didn't want people taking pictures. Otherwise, under the Criminal Code of Canada, you have a right to take a picture or a film of your loved one in a hospital setting. Okay, you don't have the right to go into an operating room, stand with the doctors that are operating on your loved one and record the procedure, but you have the right to record what came out of the operating room, and they're on the bed and you want to record your loved one. They can't say, well, it's a hospital, private or otherwise, I would think, because you know how in the States they have quote-unquote private hospitals, where in Canada it's public, right? It wouldn't matter, I don't think, because it's your loved one. You have the right, okay? Because people will just come and, oh, this is private property, it's a hospital, get out of here. No, it's not a private property. You know, it's not. Your loved one is your private property. That's what you say. Well, if that bed is private property, what's on that bed is private property, and I'm recording because that's my property. Okay? Like, don't be bamboozled to step back too fast, right? That's what I'm trying to say. In a courthouse, when I went to court and I was fighting for Uncle John, and I think it was Judge Savage, the last time, the one that tried to say that John was dead, and that was in December of 2017, and he tried to say that John was dead, and that's how he threw out the court case. And I'm like, no, he's not dead. And by that time, I had proof through photocopy that was stamped from the bank to prove that I had enduring power of attorney to represent John, as well as power of attorney. And the only way that judge could throw it out was to deem John dead, to say that now that he's dead, I had no right to act on his better interest because he was dead, and that's how he threw it out. Even though I cited all kinds of codes under the Criminal Code of Canada in terms of sections, this, you know, fraud, and mail fraud, all kinds of crazy crap that they did when it came to committing crimes under the Criminal Code of Canada. And when that didn't work, right, or I think it was maybe we started with the legislation of BC, and, you know, because he was trying to throw it out, and I was, like, arguing with him, right, in terms of, you know, how people do that in court. And I'm like, well, you can't, because under this legislation, this, I cited like 5 or 6 or 7 of them, Patient Property Act, the Guardian Adult Act, the freaking Enduring Power of Attorney Act, the Community something Act, this act, you know, right? And he got all red in the face, and then he kind of like just took a break, and he ran off into his chambers, and then the sheriff came and told, you know, was running and chasing me around, and I went out into the outside, out of the courthouse into the, you know, the foyer. Sheriff approached me and was making freaking kind of subliminal threats on me because I was determined to hold the judge to account to all these different legislations that he was ignoring, right? So then when we go back in, he goes, oh, no, no, no. Da, da, da. And I said, okay, well, if you're not going to listen to the, to the legislation and acknowledge that under a provincial level, then you need to deal with the Criminal Code of Canada in terms of what crimes were committed under that, under this section, that section, because you have to remember in those days, I was typing this shit up, so it was fresh on my mind. So I blah, 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 blah. And, he just, John's dead. I said, no, he's not. Oh, yes, he is. You can't represent him because he's dead and it's it's dismissed. And then he walked away. Freaking walked away. And I remember that judge. I told him I wanted to record. He said, oh, well, and I put the recorder. I did. I put the recorder, when you go, right, the judge is in front of you, and then, you have the place where the lawyers and you sit. I had the recorder there, but I didn't turn it on. But he knew I wanted to. He said, well, no, you can't. And I'm like, well, under the criminal code I can, but I didn't want to rock the boat, so I didn't, because I'm not really that, I know I appear aggressive sometimes, right? But I'm not really that aggressive when I need to be. And he's seen me, I said, I want to record this for my records, or whatever, right? Oh, well, you can't. And I said, well, actually, technically I can, under the Criminal Code of Canada. So, I don't know. And I put it down. He's seen it. And he just carried on. So what I'm trying to say is he turned a blind eye to it. And if I would have turned it on, I would have had that whole thing recorded. So if you ever find yourself in a situation, you gotta kind of be, you gotta push past that barrier, whatever that, because it's just an invisible barrier. If you can pass the invisible barrier, you might be surprised what you might get on the other side. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, what's the worst that they would do if I was recording it? Contempt of court? Come with the sheriff? Hell, that judge sent the sheriff after me just for citing legislation on a provincial level and holding the judge to account in terms of you can't dismiss this because under this legislation they breached it. Under this legislation they committed crimes. Under this legislation they did what they weren't supposed to do because the legislation says right there they weren't supposed to do it, but they did it anyway. Oh, you're not satisfied with that? Fine. Let's talk about this legislation. And then there's this one. It's all right there in front of you. I wrote it all freaking down. I typed it all out for you. You can't ignore it. Well, 15-minute break. He goes and runs off, comes back. Oh, well, blah. And I'm like, no. And we're not done yet. We got the Criminal Code of Canada under this section. And then there's this section and this section. And then, well, John's dead. You can't represent, doesn't matter how many this and that. And I'm like, no, he's not dead. Yes, he is. And that's how he threw it out. If I had this thing recording when it was sitting on that table, I could play it back to you today if I wanted to prove that what I'm saying is true. Because as it was, I could have had it on when I walked into the courthouse, told him I was recording because I told him I wanted to record it for my records. He said, no, you can't because they like, and I'll tell you why they say no. This is exactly why they say no. Okay? Because they falsify their records. Literally. And I know this for a fact. Because I got the judgment back from one of those judges. I don't remember which one. And I read it. Maybe it was even Judge Savage. I don't know. And I read it. And whatever it was that he said to me at that time in the courthouse, he switched it up and he changed it in his transcript. In other words, he lied because he realized, okay, it was not Judge Savage. It was Judge, we're going back in time here. I don't know. It was the first or the second judge, because, I came into like 3 or 4 judges with Uncle John, right? Maybe Tony will help me gather up all my court papers after we're done doing other things, because he said he'll help me with a bit of paperwork. So I start gathering up all my court papers, and Tony can help me to start organize all my court papers, and we'll get them in freaking order, and I can go to the courthouse one day and I can get all the transcripts that I don't have, and I can almost guarantee you a whole bunch of them will be freaking falsified. Because the one time that I did get back a judgment in writing in the mail, or however I got them, I don't know, I don't remember. That judge, which would have been the first or the second judge that I came into contact with, and I was trying to tell that judge I had enduring power of attorney. I had power of attorney. I don't know. He said something. It's stuck in my mind so much that I forgot about it now. Anyway, when I got the transcripts back, because of what he said and how he said it, he knew that he had made a mistake. So he changed his own words so that when the transcript was finally printed out, it said something different than what he actually said. I'm telling you, you have a right to record, even if it's in your pocket. And if you find out that it doesn't match up with the transcript later, whether the judge knows about you recording or not, doesn't matter. From my experience, then you challenge it depending on the severity of the fraud within the courthouse itself. Because if you hear the judge saying one thing and you remember him saying one thing, and then 3 months later you get back the transcript from that court proceeding and you read it and they don't match up, and you got the proof that the judge is lying, falsifying records, then I guess you're going to have to find a way to take it to the next level. I'm just saying, and cross that barrier. That's how you deal with it in a courthouse. I'm just saying. In order to protect yourself, for your records. For your records. Okay. You go to a courthouse, it's not a good idea to take a camcorder, go into the halls and just, do a walk and talk, recording all the lawyers with all the people that are, going to whoever or whatever. I mean, that is kind of like common sense, right? So if you did that, somebody that, would come, the sheriff would say, no, this is, a government building, you're not allowed to record like that. Okay, well, that's fair enough. But if you're in the actual courthouse, standing in front of a judge, you can tell him that you're going to do it. He'll tell you you can't. And, chances are you can put that thing down with it on, and he won't say anything, because legally, by law, I don't think if it went to court to challenge that, they would get very far with it, right? And if he's really that adamant where you can't record, then that's only because he's trying to hide something in the fact that later on, after he goes through whatever and he's going to make his judgment, if he wants to make himself look clean, or maybe he took a bribe or whatever, and he wants to falsify the records, that's the only reason he wouldn't want you to record, because he doesn't want to get caught with committing fraud at the bench. Okay? Okay. So, with that said, let's just finish this. You can record on your private property, Canada law. Well, you see, this is where these Punjabis don't see it as private property. All right, because they called Mrs. Gill the trump card, right? Because she's the owner, right? So, and I've already been demoted. I was demoted when I was robbed in the yard of all my belongings. Okay? Because my value to the collective group in regards to Punjabis is diminished. I'm that injured bird that is left to die, basically, through a ideology that ultimately doesn't value life because of that caste system. Okay? The lower you are on the caste system, the less value your life becomes. And that's the point of a caste system. That's what gives others the permission to abuse you and use you and mistreat you. And then justify it by saying that you were born into it or you deserved it. And that's your lot in life. And they have absolutely no responsibility to help you any more than they would want to. It's not about have to, it's about want to, right? Okay. So, you can record on your private property Canada law. He was wrong. Don't believe what anyone tells you saying you can't. Right. It's almost like you have to walk around with a little mini freaking Criminal Code of Canada in your back pocket when you go out and be in front of somebody. Because just because you go out in public doesn't mean you're not going to be attacked in your own house. Clearly you can see that through what happened with me. So you might want to put it in a little pouch or something and, hang it around your neck. A little Criminal Code of Canada, or have it hanging in a little pouch off your hip, so that when you come into contact with somebody that just likes to open their mouth and start blah, 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 to intimidate you, right, with threats and this and that and everything else, you can whip out the Criminal Code of Canada and remind them that you have rights. As a Canadian, you have rights. Not that they would listen. I'm just being kind of, asinine about it, right? Not that they would listen to you, because they wouldn't, because ultimately they have an ulterior motive. Okay, if he didn't like it, he can leave. Well, he was threatening to leave. He was putting himself into a position of being the victim so that he could go back and cry to Mrs. Gill that I wasn't allowing him to do his job, because somehow I was either frightening him, as if, because the dude was probably one of the taller one out of the block there in terms of the group, and I would have put him at 6'1", 6'2", maybe, no shorter than 6 foot at least, right? Maybe even 6'3". I don't know. If he'd stand up straight, he'd probably be as tall as 6'3". And I'm the one that's intimidating him. Yeah, sure. He can leave, and so, but if you don't stop talking, I'm leaving. All right? Why? Why were you standing there even listening to me in the first place? You could have fucking left. Right? I talked to Tisha. She said it didn't require 5 men, 6 men, 7 men to do what one man could have done. Right? In terms of, if Alex was there doing the job, at best, he maybe would have called one other person to help him. Outside of that, the amount of men that were going in and out, tracking mud and spreading freaking whatever it was that was on the floor in there and yada-dee-yada-dee-yah, was completely unnecessary. It wasn't a social time. But for them, it's social, right? Because I could feel it, right? I was trying to draw on the positive energy and just, I don't know, give credit where credit was due, I suppose, but it backfired on them because they don't value women very much, except for maybe those with money. Like, they value Mrs. Gill because she has money, right? Yeah. If she was a poor Punjabi 84-year-old woman, do you honestly think that they would listen to her and respect her and value her compared to a woman in her position where she owns houses and can just pick up and fly to freaking California at her leisure when she wants to with her husband at 84 and 86 years old for 10 days and then still have to pay the plumbers? When she tells me now, and you know what the consequences around this is going to be now. I see it coming. Well, the back porch, the glass, I don't have money. I have to pay the plumbers. The porch, well, you never fix the porch anyway, but for sure, and no, they're going to get, what about the stairs? Well, the stairs, I told her to wait maybe until spring because, I try not to stress her out, right? But I asked the guy, the main one, Papa Plumber, that when he was done doing was to come upstairs and quote the stairs for her. Quote them, give her a quote, and while you're there, look at this back window and at least put the window back in properly. She said that she might change the whole whatever, the whole frame, everything, because I guess she did house renovations on her other house and put new windows in. And she's got a new door, well, the used door from that place that might fit this door. But that ain't happening now because this plumbing situation is going to be held over my head for 2 years that they're still paying the plumbers for what they did. When in fact, it's already been exposed that what they did was they dragged it out too long. They Mickey Moused with it with the machines. They got too many people. I don't know who's going to get paid with all that. 7 guys aren't getting paid. They were just socializing, some of them, and picking up on the knowledge so that they can do it for themselves at home when they have their own problems and call in one buddy versus hiring a plumber. It's like those truckers, okay? The Punjabi truckers. Gordon Campbell comes in, right, in 2001, gets elected, BC Liberal government, goes on and on and on about how he's going to create all these universities, because whatever, and basically all he does is takes a bunch of buildings, jimmies the books, puts up a sign, and says, now it's a university. And through that process, it kind of took root across Canada, because it's a big problem in Ontario, where they have something like 800 so-called colleges and universities that are specifically designed to cater to immigrants, a lot of them from India, right? Where they come in, and as an immigrant, they're coming in and they're being forwarded to these so-called universities and colleges, which are not legitimate in the true sense of a university and a college. And they plug them into a program where they can learn to be quote-unquote truckers. They fast-track whatever it is that they're doing, and then they give them a certificate and they send them out into the community and they can go get a job, but they don't even know how to drive a freaking truck properly. Those big flatbeds and, the big ones. And it's like that in the States too. So truckers, the real truckers, are losing their jobs in replace of the immigrant that has a certificate that's been falsified through this mudding of the waters, through, whatever. Give people an inch and they go for a mile, right? Well, the government gave the inch and the people went for the mile. And there's a lot of fraud going on. Well, legitimate truckers who have been in the industry for years and years and years and years, who are experienced, blah, 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 they're losing their jobs in replace of immigrants that barely know anything. And I'm not saying that all immigrants don't know anything. And even the immigrants that are like truckers, legitimate truckers, are pissed off about it. Okay? Because there's been a few that's talked about it too. So, is that the purpose of having 5-7 guys waltz in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out of my house? Because this is the way I feel about it this time. But don't forget, I'm demoted. I'm less than Judy anymore. Judy doesn't get very much respect around here anymore because I'm aging, I'm going blind, I don't pay enough money, right? And yada-de-ya. My job is basically done when it came to covering up sand and, doing whatever I've done in terms of yard work, right? But even then I'm failing because I'm not putting in those 12-hour days, 4 to 7 days a week anymore because of whatever. I just don't have the energy and, it's hard on me. I've got other responsibilities. So I'm not meeting that expectation where in the past, that's all I ever did was live in the yard. So what I'm trying to say is, if I need these plumbers again because of something else, and I phone the landlord, and I say, or my son phones, or whoever phones, and they show up, and then I phone my landlord, and I'll be like, well, I don't want to repeat like last time, where I've got 7 people, 6 people, or whatever, all these unnecessary people running in and out of the house just because they can, as they drag out the work so that my landlord can hold it against me and say it costed a lot of money because it took this many hours to do it, blah, 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 when in fact what they did, they could have done on the first day that my son called, and the next day the city could have been involved versus losing a day and a half, right? Where my landlord supposedly will have to pay for it now. How many men she's going to pay for, I don't know. I don't know how they work it out. But if let's just say I have a problem upstairs with my toilet, and this shit starts up all over again. And, I've got 4 people running in and out. I'd be like phoning up Mrs. Gill, well, why do we need 4 people up here, Mrs. Gill? How does that make sense? It's just going to cost more money. Oh, well, and especially if they phone and they complain saying, oh, she's in our way. She's watching us. Oh, she wants to take a little video because of this or that. We're leaving. It's just a lot of mindfuckery. That's all it is. That's all it is. And then when I want the back door fixed, it'll be like, well, I told you that last year before all the plumbing issues came, and now that, don't forget the carpet downstairs, some of it might have to be changed. How much? I don't know, but something needs to be done down there. And then you can kiss the back door goodbye, just like I have to kiss the freaking porch goodbye. The stairs, I'd like to think, will happen in the spring. I'm not sweating the stairs right now. It would be nice to have stairs, but I was just not trying to stress her out because do I care about her? Well, obviously I do, but at the same time, how much does she really care about me? Not that she's required to care about me, but if I phoned and said, oh, gee, Mrs. Gill, you got all these men running in and out, spreading sewage fucking water all over the place. There's no reason to have all these different men going in and out over a period of 10 hours. Like, how does that make even sense? It doesn't. But I guess it does for them because they're making money one way or another. How they're cutting the deal, I don't know. And then, yeah, so I mean, he already said, I'm leaving. If he would have left, then what? She's gonna threaten to kick me out because the guy left? Oh, I can't even get so-and-so to come in there and work. You're a bad tenant. You need to get out. Yeah, okay. So he was gonna leave, but there was still 4 guys standing around. Were they all gonna leave? I guess he was gonna take the whole crew. Because I was scaring them. That's what she said. You're scaring them. Okay. I'm scaring them. No, the situation is scaring me with the shit all over the place. How about that? With everybody standing around saying they don't know, they don't know, they don't know, they don't know. And they're telling us that they're leaving at 7:30 with this shit bubbling up. Okay. Why didn't you put your guy there on guard all night long? Why did it have to be Mark Kane? Yeah. So basically what did happen, though, whatever they did outside when the city came, they managed to stop the flow of the water coming up. But of course my son had to sit there all night long and make sure. And he did. And then they came yesterday or whenever. The guys, right, 2 guys came and started digging. And then the city came and they started digging. So between the plumbers from Mrs. Gill, the 2 were digging, and then from the city, 2 were digging, and then I guess they were working together as a team, and then they brought in some machine. I don't know. Andre was recording a little something there. I was sleeping, right? Because, you know, I don't do well with these accusations and threats and just whatever. When my stairs are broken, the porch is leaking all over the place, my window's ready to fall out of its frame if the glass not out of the frame, right? Crap now all over the backyard, which somebody needs to talk to the city about that and maybe sprinkle some lime. But then I think about the cats and the raccoons, and are they going to get sick and whatever. Also, CA law landlord is financially responsible for outside and inside repairs. Well, of course, but you're dealing with people that see the tenant as below them, and therefore the tenant becomes responsible for things that they can do without the landlord having to pay for it, because if the tenant doesn't do it, or at least put up with the nuisance of something not being repaired, like the back door, the porch, or whatever, because if you put pressure on your landlord to fix it, they'll just tell you that if you don't like it, you can move. Take it as is. You want it, you can fix it. I don't have the money, blah, 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 get out, right? We're going to evict you. And most tenants can't afford to get evicted, so they just live with it. They live with the problems. And then it gets down to the point where you only get things fixed that are absolutely 100% necessary. And that's why the porch never ever gets fixed. Nope. That's why that back door never has ever really been replaced and fixed properly. The glass, once in a blue moon, will get repositioned in, which needs to be done. And I told that guy, before you leave with this stuff, because that was going to be the next thing for him to come and do. Because some of these guys are the same guys that have been coming around here forever. So it's not like they don't fucking know me, or whatever, right? But this last one, whether he was here before or not, I don't give a shit. They were running freaking game. Now, whether Mrs. Gill is a part of that game and she likes paying extra money for extra guys because it makes her feel important, I don't know. Or maybe they're just running a little freaking side school like those fake freaking universities that the BC Liberal government brought in so that the immigrants that are coming into the country, because they're definitely immigrants to one degree or another because they don't have proper language skills. I'm sorry, you're not 24 years old not being able to speak very good English unless, of course, maybe there's a reason for it, right? And so, you know, to me it was just like an apprenticeship, right? Or they just stopped by, you know, as you know, buddies to check it out just to because they could, and because, you know, that's their social time. Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's it. So I guess what's happening is they brought a portable, whatever it is, outhouse, and the water is supposed to be turned on tomorrow, where we can actually use the sink. And then the next day, it's the toilet. So they broke 2 lines somehow. 2 lines came together somehow. Something happened. And it's up by the fence, by the power pole, up in that corner. And of course I'm cowering in my room. I'm cowering, C-O-W-A-R-D-I-N-G. I'm not pronouncing it right. Cowering. Maybe I spelt it right. I don't know. In my house, because of the pit bulls inside and on the outside, making threats on me, which inadvertently have been documented. So, with this dude threatening to call someone on me when I opened up my front door in the pitch black, to record the lights of the city truck, and the camera picked up with him making his 3rd threat on me. Okay? First it was you're gonna be sleeping in sewage. Ha 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 ha. That was the first threat. I'm like, what did you say? And then, with the camera, if you don't stop talking, I'm leaving. That's the second threat, even though they already told Marcane they were leaving at 7:30, no matter what. And then, when I opened up the door outside, you know, I'm going to call somebody. And this was after he already called Mrs. Gill. It's almost like he went out of his way to pick a fight with me, honestly. I mean, for all I know, that could be Mrs. Gill's nephew. Yeah. And I'm like, Andre heard it. I didn't hear it. He brought it to my attention first. I said, oh, he said that? He goes, yeah, Nana. I said, well, who's he going to call? Mrs. Gill? Is he calling Mrs. Gill again? Why not? Just say, I'm calling Mrs. Gill again. Or is he going to call the social workers? Being that he going on and on and on and on about my YouTube channel. I'm just saying, right? And then when I did the videos, I heard it on the video. Andre was right. And my camera was only on for what? Less than a minute? Right? So the bastards got me shaking in my boots in my own damn house. Yeah. And he's afraid of me. That's what Mrs. Gill says. He's afraid of me. Right, but he's not shaking in his boots. He's acting like a big bad boy out there with the rest of the boys. Right? Well, I'm afraid to open my door. Never mind poke my nose out and look and see what the hell's going on. Never mind record what's going on. For my own record, for my own satisfaction, for my own curiosity, just because I'd like to just put up on YouTube because it's just part of the story, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? But that's not what it's about. They don't like women that are independent in mind. Right? They clearly don't like community activism unless it suits their agenda. I already pointed that out. My landlord and landlady probably went to California for a Vaisakhi parade. That kind of community activism is valued with the Punjabis. The kind of community activism that I do is not. There are 20 people at James' house who are homeless that need housing immediately. Is there anything I can do about that? No. Why? Because I have an apathetic community where the ones that hold the majority of the wealth basically only think about themselves and how much more they can gather up in terms of that wealth so that they can profess to be more important than those below them. And for the ones that are needing the housing, I guess they did it to themselves and they deserve what they got, and they can stay homeless for the rest of their lives based under that caste system. That's my community activism. If I can't go out there and house 20 people, at least I'm going to talk about it and why it's like that and what instigates it. Where's the Vaisakhi parade for this year? Last October, my landlord went to freaking India for a Vaisakhi parade when my garage flooded out. And it was Alex who saved the day. And my landlord wouldn't even give me $100 to give to Alex for helping with that. She expected me to pay for it. And I did. I paid Alex. But she'll pay seven Punjabi men to go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out for 12 hours. She'll do that for, 10 hours. She'll pay 7 Punjabi men to do that, go in and out, in and out, in and out, come back with the old okie dokie. But the one man that actually came at 5:30 in the morning in the pouring freaking rain, right, pitch dark, freezing his ass off, all by himself, and saved her house, saved her house. Because if it wouldn't have been for him, that house in the basement would have been completely freaking flooded. Okay, yeah, and she couldn't even give him $100 because she doesn't value me. She doesn't respect me or anything that I bring to the table, because if she did, she would have gave me the $100 to give to him versus telling me I had to pay for it because I don't pay enough rent. And I'm not putting my landlady down. I don't know how to spell Vaisakhi. I'm not putting my landlady down because she's old. She doesn't understand what she's doing. Just like my grandmother when I was young, and my grandmother, like Mrs. Gill, old, would tell me to stay away from black people. And I'd be like, I was like 16 years old, right? And I'm 63 now, so you do the math on that one. And I'm like, why? Why would you say that, grandmother? Oh, because they have their own problems. You know, leave them alone. You don't want, to deal with you go find yourself a nice white man. That's what she told me. Because I was dating black men in those days. Right? Why did she say that? Because she was old and she was prejudiced. That's why. She said she wasn't prejudiced. She felt that she wasn't prejudiced. But at the end of the day, she was. And she couldn't understand that because of her generation. Just the era that she grew up in. Well, it's the same thing with my landlord. You'll pay 7 Punjabis to come into my house. I don't care if I go downstairs or not. A lot. It doesn't matter. You know who you rented it to. You rented it to me. You didn't rent it to my little fucking 18-year-old son when I moved in. You rented it to me. You sure in the hell didn't rent it in to some woman that's just moved in a few years ago and thinks that she runs the house when in fact she doesn't, but you rented it to me. Okay, that's the point. You can pay 7 guys to run in and out, to track fucking sewage all over the place, right? All over the garage, into the freaking laundry room, down the hall, all back and forth for over a 10-hour period. You can do that. You can pay those guys to do that. So they come back with the old okie dokie with a huge ass bill, so you tell me. So that now you don't have an excuse to fix anything anymore because you're still paying the fucking plumbers to do all that crap, to spread shit around, pour it out my window, right? So that it's all over in my backyard. Andre says you go as far back as up to the pine tree over there, the spruce tree, which is up by my greenhouse, and you can smell this crap. So what does that tell you, right? You can pay those guys to do all that, but you can't pay Alex for saving your house from being flooded by an atmospheric storm that literally wiped out half of Abbotsford and took out bridges. If it wouldn't have been for Alex, that basement would have been completely flooded. And you couldn't even give him $100. Because you were at a parade. Because that was her community activism. But it's not her fault, because she's old and she doesn't understand. In terms of, she's been programmed to be that way through her temple and how they set up their caste system. And being that Alex wasn't even Punjabi, he didn't deserve anything. Being that I'm not Punjabi, I was required to pay for it. And I did. So just because a landlord is supposed to pay for something doesn't mean that they will. Doesn't mean that they will. And they know they can get away with it. And the more they act like that, the more mean, in a simple term, they become. And if you talk about it, and they might happen to come across your YouTube channel, before they'd want to problem solve and be a part of the solution, because there is no profit in being part of the solution, they will just make it harder for you. Yeah. And that's what that dude was doing. While my landlady is just stacking her chips, saying that I'm the problem if and when she ever wants to really sock it to me to kick me out so she can get more money until they tear this house down. Yeah. Because she was programmed to be like that through her temple. That's what makes her important. That's what elevates her status. And when you're trapped into that, I don't know what to call it. It's like I said, I'm in a web with spiders. Okay, so Visakhi Parade 2025. I'm trying to see. Maybe she went for somebody to get married. Maybe somebody is getting married versus a Visakhi Parade. Because they like to fly in, right? Okay, Visakhi Parade, Saturday, April 19, 2025. But that's... We want the, I guess they had one in 2025 in April. They had it in April of 2025. So maybe somebody's getting married. Whatever. The point is, she's not around now. She went to India. I'm sorry. She went to California. Well, I'm hiding out in my house.